The Initiates of the Flame by Manly P. Hall. Introduction.
Few realize that even at the present stage of civilization in this world, there are souls who, like the priests of the ancient temples, walk the earth and watch and guard the sacred fires that burn upon the altar of humanity. Purified ones they are, who have renounced the life of this sphere in order to guard and protect the flame, the spiritual principle in man, now hidden beneath the ruins of his fallen temple. As we think of the nations that are past, of Greece and Rome, and the grandeur that was Egypt's, we sigh as we recall the story of their fall, and we watch the nations of today, not knowing which will be the next to draw its shroud around itself, and join that great ghostly file of peoples that are dead. But everywhere, even in the rise and fall of nations, we see through the haze of materiality, justice. Everywhere we see reward, not of man, but of the invincible one, the eternal flame. A great hand reaches out from the unseen and regulates the affairs of man. It reaches out from that great spiritual flame which nourishes all created things, the never-dying fire that burdens on the sacred altar of cosmos, that great fire which is the Spirit of God. If we turn again to the races now dead, we shall, if we look, find the cause of their destruction. The light had gone out. When the flame within the body is withdrawn, the body is dead. When the light was taken from the altar, the temple was no longer the dwelling place of a living God. Degeneracy, lust and passion, hates and fears crept into the souls of Greece and Rome, and black magic overshadowed Egypt. The light upon the altar grew weaker and weaker. The priests lost the word, the name of the flame. Little by little, the flame flickered out, and as the last spark grew cold, a mighty nation died, buried beneath the dead ashes of its own spiritual fire. But the flame did not die. Like spirit, of which it is the essence, it cannot die, because it is life, and life cannot cease to be. In some wilderness of land or sea it rested once again, and there rose a mighty nation around that flame. So history goes on through the ages. As long as the people are true to the flame, it remains. But when they cease to nourish it with their lives, it goes on to other lands and other worlds. Those who worship this flame are now called heathens. Little do we realize that we are heathen ourselves until we are baptized of the Holy Spirit, which is fire. For fire is light, and the children of the flame are the sons of light, even as God is light. There are those who have for ages labored with man to help him to kindle within himself this spark, which is his divine birthright. It is these who, by their lives of self-sacrifice and service, have awakened and tended this fire, and who through ages of study have learned the mystery it contained, that we now call the initiates of the flame. For ages, they have labored with mankind to help him uncover the light within himself, and on the pages of history they have left their seal, the seal of fire. Unhonored and unsung, they have labored with humanity, and now their lives are used as fairy stories to amuse children. But the time will yet come when the world shall know the work they did, and realize that our present civilization is raised upon the shoulders of the mighty demigods of the past. We stand as Faust stood, with all our lore, a fool no wiser than before, because we refuse to take the truths they gave us and the evidence of their experiences. Let us honor these sons of the flame, not by words, but by so living that their sacrifice shall not be in vain. They have shown us the way. They have led man to the gateway of the unknown, and there in their robes of glory passed behind the veil. Their lives were the key to their wisdom, as it must always be. They have gone, but in history they stand, milestones on the road of human progress. Let us watch these mighty ones as they pass silently by. First, Orpheus, playing upon the seven-string lyre of his own being, the music of the spheres. Then Hermes, the thrice greatest, with his emerald tablet of divine revelation. Through the shades of the past, we dimly see Krishna, the illuminated, who on the battlefield of life taught man the mysteries of his own soul. Then we see the sublime Buddha, his yellow robe not half so glorious as the heart it covered, and our own dear master, the man Jesus, his head surrounded with a halo of golden flame, and his brow serene with the calm of mastery. then Muhammad, Zoroaster, Confucius, Odin, and Moses, and others no less worthy passed by before the eyes of the student. They were the sons of flame. From flame they came, and to the flame they have returned. To us they beckon, and bid us join them, and in our robes of self-earned glory, to serve the flame they love. They were without creed or clan. They served but the one great ideal. From the same place they all came, and to the same place they have returned. There was no superiority there. Hand in hand they labored for humanity. Each loves the other, for the power that has made them masters has shown them the brotherhood of all life. In the pages that follow, we will try to show this great thread, the spiritual thread, the thread of living fire that winds in and out through all religions and binds them together with a mutual ideal and mutual needs. In the story of the Grail and the legends of King Arthur, we find that thread wound around the table of the king and the temple of Mount Salvar, the same thread of life that passes through the roses of the Rosicrucians, winds amongst the petals of the lotus, and among the temple pillars of Luxor. There is but one religion in all the world, and that is the worship of God, the spiritual flame of the universe. Under many names he is known in all lands, but as Iswari or Ammon or God, he is the same, the creator of the universe, and fire is his universal symbol. We are the flame-born sons of God, thrown out as sparks from the wheels of the infinite. Around this flame we have built forms which have hidden our light, but as students we are increasing this light by love and service, until it shall again proclaim us sons of the eternal. Within us burns that flame, and before its altar the lower man must bow, a faithful servant of the higher. When he serves the flame he grows, and the light grows until he takes his place with the true initiates of the universe, those who have given all to the infinite in the name of the flame within. Let us find this flame and also serve it, realizing that it is in all created things, that all are one because all are part of that eternal flame, the fire of spirit, the life and power of the universe. Upon the altar of this flame, to the true creator of this book, the writer offers it, and dedicates it to the one fire which blazes forth from God, and is now hidden within each living thing. Forward, the greatest of mystery schools. The world is the schoolroom of God. Our being in school does not make us learn, but within that school is the opportunity for all learning. It has its grades and its classes, its science and its arts, and admission to it is the birthright of man. Its graduates are its teachers, its pupils are all created things. Its examples are nature, and its rules are God's laws. Those who would go into the greater colleges and universities must first, day by day and year by year, work through the common school of life, and present to their new teachers the diplomas they have won, upon which is written the name that none may read save those who have received it. The hours may seem long and the teachers cruel, but each of us must walk that path, and the only ones ready to go onward are those who have passed through the gateway of experience, God's great school for man. The fire upon the altar. As far back as our history goes, we find that fire has played an important part in the religious ceremonial of the human race. In practically every religion, we find the sacred altar fires, which were guarded by the priests and vestals with greater care than their own lives. In the Bible, we find many references made to the sacred fires, which were used as one form of devotion by the ancient Israelites. The altar of burnt offerings is as old as the human race, and dates from the time when the first man, lifting himself out of the mists of ancient Lemuria, first saw the sun, the great fire spirit of the universe. Among the followers of Zoroaster, the Persian initiate, fire has been used for centuries in honor of the great fire god Ormuz, who is said by them to have created the universe. There are two paths or divisions of humanity whose history is closely related to that of the wisdom teachings. They embody the doctrines of fire and water, the two opposites of nature. Those who follow the path of faith or the heart use water and are known as the sons of Seth, while those who follow the path of the mind and action are the children of Cain, who was the son of Samael, the spirit of fire. Today we find the latter among the alchemists, the Hermetic philosophers, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons. It is well for us to understand that we ourselves are the cube altar, upon which and in which burns the altar fire. For many centuries, the initiate of fire has been nourishing and guarding the spiritual flame within himself, as the ancient priests watched day and night the altar fires of Vesta's temple. The ever-burning lamp of the alchemist, which having burned thousands of years without fuel in the catacombs of Rome, is but a symbol of this same spiritual fire within himself. In their picture, we see the ever-burning lamp, which was carried by the initiate in his wandering. It represents the spinal column of man, at the top of which is flickering a little blue and red flame. As the lamp of the ancients was fed and kept burning by the purest of olive oil, so man is transmitting within himself and cleansing in the laver of purification the life essences, which, when turned upward, provide fuel for the ever-burning lamp within himself. Upon the altars of the ancients were offered sacrifices to the gods. The ancient Hierophant offered up sacrifices of spice and incense. The Masonic brother of today still has among his symbols the incense burner or censer, but few of the brothers recognize themselves in this symbol. The ancients symbolized under such things as this the development of the individual, and as the tiny spark burning among the incense cubes slowly consumes all, so the spiritual flame within the student is slowly burning away and transmuting the base metals and properties within himself, and offering up the essence thereof as the smoke upon the altar of divinity. It is said that King Solomon, when he completed his temple, offered bulls as a sacrifice to the Lord, by burning them upon the temple altar. Those who believe in a harmless life wonder why so many references are made in the Bible to animal sacrifice. The student realizes that the animal sacrifices are those of the celestial zodiac, and that when the ram or the bull was offered upon the altar, it represented the qualities in man which come through Aries, the celestial ram, and Taurus, the bull in the zodiac. In other words, the initiate, passing through his tests in purification, is offering upon the altar of his own higher being the lower animal instincts and desires within himself. Among the Masonic brothers, we also find what is called the symbol of mortality. It is a spade, a coffin, and an open grave, while upon the coffin has been laid a sprig of acacia or evergreen. In the picture, we see the spade of the gravedigger, which has been considered the symbol of death for centuries. In the Book of Thoth, that strange document which has descended to man at his present stage of evolution as a deck of playing cards, we find a very wonderful symbolism. Of all the suits of cards, that of the spade is the only suit in which all the court cards face away from the pip. In all the other kings and queens, the faces are looking at the little marker in the corner of the card, but in the spade suit they look away from it. Now it is said that the spade has been taken from the acorn, but the occult student has a different idea. He sees in the spade, which has for ages been the symbol of death, a certain part of his own anatomy. If you will again turn to the picture of the spade, you will see, if you have ever studied anatomy, that the gravedigger's spade is the spinal column, and the spade-shaped piece, which is used on the deck of cards, is nothing more nor less than the sacrum bone. This bone forms the base of the spinal column, and is also the spear of passion. Through it and the foramina which pierce it, pass the roots of the spinal nerve, which indeed are the roots of the tree of life. It is the center through which are nourished and fed the lower vertebrae of the spine, and the sacrum and coccygeal bones that dig the graves for all created things. This point has been beautifully symbolized by the gravedigger's spade, which has been used by the brothers of many mystic organizations for ages. The currents and forces working through these lower spinal nerves must be transmitted and lifted upward to feed the altar fire at the positive or upper end of the spine. The centering of thought or emotion upon higher or lower things, as the case may be, determines where thin life energy will be expended. If the lower emotions predominate, the flame upon the altar burns low and flickers out, because the forces which fed it have been concentrated upon the lower centers. But when altruism predominates, then the lower forces are raised upward and pass through the purification which makes possible their being used as fuel for the ever-burning lamp. Thus we see why it was a great sin to let the lamp go out. For the pillar of flames which hovers over the tabernacle, purified and prepared after the directions of the Most High, is the spiritual flame that, hovering above man, lights his way wherever he may go. The sun of our solar system, that is, the spiritual sun behind the physical globe, is one of these flames. It began no greater than ours, and through the power of attraction and transmuting of its ever-increasing energies, it has reached its present proportions. This flame in man is the light that shineth in darkness. It is the spiritual flame within himself. It lights his way as no exterior light can. This radiating out from him brings into view one by one the hidden things of the cosmos, and his ignorance is dispelled in exactly the same proportion as his light is spread. For the darkness of the unknown can only be removed by light, and the greater the light, the further back the darkness is driven. This is the lamp of the philosopher, which he carries through the dark passageways of life, and by the light of which he walks among the stones and along the narrow cliff edge without fear. Although he gain all other things and have not this light within himself, he cannot know where he goes, he cannot watch his footsteps, and he cannot dispel his ignorance with the light of truth. Therefore, let each student watch the fire that burns upon his altar. Let him also make that altar, his body, as beautiful and harmonious as possible. And let him also sacrifice upon that altar the frankincense and myrrh, his actions and his deeds. As in the tabernacle he offers all upon the altar of divinity, so let him day by day dispel the symbols of mortality, the coffin and the open grave by which he prepared himself through the mastery of the lower emotions within himself, and recognize that no matter how crystallized or dead this life may be, the fact that he exists at all proves that this sprig of acacia, the promise of life and immortality, is somewhere within himself, and although the flame of life may appear faint or cold, if he will supply the fuel by his daily actions, he will kindle the altar flame once more within himself, which, shining forth, will also help his brother to kindle this flame, which is a living sacrifice to the living God. The sacred city of Shambhala. In every mythology and legendary religion of the world, there is one spot that is sacred above all others, to the great ideal of that religion. To the Norsemen it was Valhalla, the city of the slain, built of the spears of heroes, where feasting and warfare was the order of the day. Here the heroes fought all day and reveled by night. Every day they killed the wild boar and feasted on it, and the next day it came to life again. In the Northland, they tell that Valhalla was high on top of the mountains, and that it was connected to the earth below by Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge. That up and down this bridge the gods came, and Odin, the Allfather, came down from Asgard, the city of the gods, and worked and labored with mankind. Among the Greeks, Mount Olympus was held sacred, and here the gods are said to have lived high on the top of a mountain. Knights of the Grail are said to have had their castle among the crags and peaks of northern Spain on Mount Salvart. In every religion of the world there is a sacred spot, Meru of the Oriental, and Mount Moriah and Mount Sinai, upon which the tablets of law were given to man. All those are symbols of one universal ideal. And as each of these religions claimed among the clouds a castle and a home, so it is said that all religions of the world have their headquarters in Shambhala, the sacred city in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. Among the Oriental peoples, there are wonderful legends of the sacred city, where it is said that the Great White Lodge, or Brotherhood, meets to carry on the governing of world affairs. As the seers of Scandinavia were 12 in number, as Olympus had 12 gods, so the Great White Brotherhood is said to have had 12 members, which meet in Shambhala and direct the affairs of men. It is said that this center of universal religion descended upon the earth when the polar cap, which was the first part of the earth to crystallize, became solid enough to support life. Science now knows that not only does the earth have two motions, that of rotation upon its axis and revolution around the sun, but it has 9 other motions, according to Flammarion, the French astronomer. One of these motions is that of the alteration of the poles. In other words, someday, that part of the Earth's surface which is now the North Pole will become the South Pole. Therefore, it is said that the sacred city has left its central position, and after much wandering is now located in Mongolia. Those who are acquainted with the Mohammedan religion will see something of great interest in the pilgrimage to the Kaaba at Mecca. where thousands go each year to give honor to the stone of Abraham, the great aerolite, upon which Muhammad is said to have rested his foot. Old and young alike, some even carried, wind through the desert sands and endure untold hardships, many coming from great distances, to visit the place they cherish and love. In India, we find the same thing. There are many sacred places to which pilgrims go, even as the Templars went in our Christian religion to the sepulchre of Christ. Few see in this anything more than an outward symbol, but the true student recognizes the great esoteric truth contained therein. The spiritual consciousness in man is a pilgrim on the way to Mecca. As this consciousness passes upward through the centers and nerves of the body, it is like the pilgrim climbing the heights of Sinai, or the Knight of the Grail returning to Mount Salvard. When the spinal fire of man starts upwards in its wanderings, it stops at many shrines and visits many holy places. For like the Masonic brother and his Jacob's ladder, the way that leads to heaven is upward and inward. The spinal fire goes through the centers or seed ground of many principles and worships at the shrine of many divine essences within itself. But it is eternally going upward, and finally it reaches the great desert. Only after pain and suffering and long labor does it cross that waste of sand. This is the Gethsemane of the higher man. But finally, he crosses the sacred desert, and before him, in the heart of the lotus, rises the golden city, Shambhala. In the spreading of the bone between the eyes, called the frontal sinus, is the seat of the divine in man. There, in a particular gaseous material, floats, or rather exists, or is, the fine essence which we know as the spirit. This is the lost city in the sacred desert, connected to the lower world by the rainbow bridge or the silver cord. And it is to this point in himself that the student is striving to rise. This is the sacred pilgrimage of the soul, in which the individual leaves the lower man and the world below and climbs upward to the higher man or higher world, the brain. This is the great pilgrimage to Shambhala. And as that great city is the center for the direction of our earth, so the corresponding great city in man is the center for his governmental system. When any other thing governs man, he is not attuned to his own higher self. And it is only when the gods, representing the higher principle, come down the rainbow bridge and labor with him, teaching him the arts and sciences, that he is truly receiving his divine birthright. In the Orient, the student looks forward with eager longing to the times when he shall be allowed to worship before the gates of the sacred city, when he also shall see the initiates in silent conclave around the circular table of the zodiac, when the veil of Isis shall be torn away and the cover lifted from the Grail cup. Let the student remember that all of these things must first happen within himself before he can find them in the universe without. The 12 elder brothers within himself must first be reached and understood before those of the universe can be comprehended. If he would find the great initiates without, he must find them within. And if he would see that sacred city in the lotus blossom, he must first open that lotus within himself, which he does, petal by petal, when he purifies and attunes himself to the higher principles within. The lotus is the spinal column once more, its roots deep in materiality, its blossom the brain, and only when he spends upward nourishment and power can that lotus blossom within himself blossom forth with its many petals, giving out their spiritual fragrance. Sometimes you will see in store windows funny little Chinese gods or Oriental Buddhas sitting on the blossom of a lotus. In fact, if you look carefully, you will find that nearly all of the Oriental gods are so depicted. This means that they have opened themselves within that spiritual consciousness, which they call Sushumna. You have seen the funny little hats worn by the Hindu gods. They are made to represent a flower upside down, and once more, like the rod of Aaron that budded, we see the reference made to the unfolding of consciousness within. When the lotus blossom has reached maturity, it drops its seed, and from this seed new plants are produced. It is the same with the spiritual consciousness, which, when the plant is finished and its work is done, is released to work and produce other things. In the Western world, the lotus has been changed to the rose. The roses of the Rosicrucian, the roses of the Masonic degrees, and also those of the Order of the Garter in England, all stand for the same thing, the awakening of consciousness and the unfolding into full bloom the soul qualities of man. When man awakens and opens his bud within himself, he finds, like the golden pollen in a flower, this wonderful spiritual city, Shambhala, in the heart of the lotus. When this pilgrimage of his spiritual fire is accomplished, he is liberated from the top of the mountain, as in the ascension of Christ, and the spiritual man, freed by his pilgrimage from the wheel of bondage, rises upward from among his disciples, the convolutions of the brain within the great cry of the initiate, which has sounded through the mystery school for ages, when the purified student goes onward and upward to become a pillar in the temple of his God. With that last cry, the true mystery of Shambhala, the sacred city, is understood, and he joins the ranks of those who, in white robes of purity, throned soul bodies, gaze down upon the world and see others liberated in the same way, and who also sound the eternal tocsin, consummatum est, it is finished.